Yo, guys. So, supply and demand. Well, as we know, it's what runs the market, basically. A market is just buyers and sellers, and we view that through. Well, one of the means we view that through is supply and demand levels, right? So, yeah, it's about like monitoring the interaction, who's in control, where did they become in control, how did they become in control, can we capitalize on that information, right? So basically, if we take this leg of price and we view all of this stuff, right, we can go, okay, well, we've had some form of supply in the market here, right? It's broken this low. Right, it's broken this low over here, right? This is also demand. We can see like a little interaction here, then a remitigation of the range and blah blah blah. But yeah, then we can say, okay, well, here's where they got taken out of the market, right? All the sellers got absorbed and price continued to break up. So we can now say that this is definitely a valid demand range. Right, price mitigates, continues to move up, misses the mitigation of this range, but then creates a new demand range here when we break this high. It's not a swing structure, but we're just looking at like supply and demand levels, right? Price continues to move up, comes back, remitigates something in this range, namely this little flip here, right? Continues to move up, again, misses the mitigation of this range. So what we want to do then afterwards is keep an eye on all these unmitigated ranges as well, because they're likely going to be reaction points, or potentially, depending on like the higher time frame narrative, potentially continuation points, right? So yeah, we come up, we create this new demand range here, right? But then again, same thing happens, right? We come in, we give a reaction, and the reaction fails here, right? And we start seeing price move to the downside, right? So now we can assume that price will likely continue in this direction, right? So here we've got our first like unmitigated demand range, right? We can refine that to these levels. Price comes in, mitigates, fails to follow through and run the high. So we now have a valid ST zone, right? There's like lower time frame and stuff in here that would make more sense, but yeah, we have this zone. Right, price comes down, mitigates this zone. So here, right, with other stuff to do with structure and things like that, right, we can take a buy, right? Because if we're looking at this from a structural perspective, we've got this break here, right, and then we've got this break here. So this is technically our swing low, right? So we can definitely take buys. This is a strong demand level, right? It's run liquidity, it's an engulfed sell to buy, break structure, it has inducement, all of these good things, right? So we can definitely take a buy here to attempt to run the high, right? But we need to be aware that we're coming into an SD flip and we can potentially look for short. So we've either got a hedging opportunity or whatever, right? Price comes in, doesn't actually violate that wick. That properly, yeah, respects this and continues on down, right? So now we've had that break of like major demand, right? So now we know that in theory price is going to come down a lot lower, right? Like we've got daily bearish structure and stuff like this as well. Ooh, sorry about that. We've got daily bearish structure and stuff like this as well, but we've mainly had a break of this significant demand level, right? So where are we looking now? Well, we've got these areas here, you know. Yes, I would not, sorry, I probably should have explained that earlier. The fact of how do we view supply and demand, right? Well, it's always these engulfed candles, right? That's what we're really looking for, is this engulfed sell to buy that leads to a break of structure. So here, I personally wouldn't classify this as valid supply. What I'd do is say, okay, well, there is obviously something there because we can see the break of this low, right? And this low here, and this low here. So we know we've got a significant level of supply in the market there, right? So what I do is just keep going down some time frames and just see what we can see in there, right? So we've got this level as one level, right? And we can just see, we can keep going down, and there we go. Look, see that little fucker sitting up there? So we've got a very nice extreme there as well, right? So until that extreme is invalidated, this whole range, right, this is our supply range, right, from here to here, because it's the whole last buy to sell. This will be a higher time frame POI, maybe 2 days, something like that. I don't know. Daily, no, daily we haven't really got anything. 12 hour, there we go, look. We've got that whole thing there, right, that leads to this thing. And you see why it's so important to search through your time frames, right? So yeah, cool. Now we've got a couple of nice levels that we can play off, right? Price continues, gives a nice rally to the upside. You know, there's a trade in there for sure. Breaks that, breaches that, but comes into here, right? So now is the time that we want to be going, okay, well, now we can switch down. No, we can't switch down to lower time frames. Sorry about that. We'll do some more of this stuff later, but yeah. Now we can start saying, okay, well, this is a good level to take trades from, right? Price wicks the low, rallies back into the high here, right? But it's already taken out this, so this is our switch in supply and demand, right? Because here is our last demand range. Yes, we can say this is a run on liquidity. Yes, we can say it's a bunch of different things, right? But the demand range has been violated, right? That is the key bit of information we need to take away from this. This low has gone, right? So what's the next likely thing to happen? Well, the next likely thing to happen is we'll see a continued move down, right? And it's just about monitoring this battle the whole time, right? You know, even up here we get this little change of character here, we get the break of this low, so we can say that this is an SD flip again, right? If we look here we have this little bit of demand, this buy, sell to buy here, right? Price comes in, creates this. Again, we need to look on other time frames to validate the idea necessarily, but we could come up with, you know, we have this big wick here, right? That is the point of failure. So anything within this, right? Again, I'd want to go and find something else. There we go, we've got 110M, but we should be able to refine that even further. Right, and you notice how they're always these engulfed candles that lead to a break of structure, right? So here we've got this wick. We could assume that this is the last piece of buying price action in here. Let's see, I don't know whether this will let me go down to 1M. It will, yeah. Well, there's probably something on 30S within this wick, right? The price comes in, mitigates, right, and continues to the downside. Right, off it goes, because we've got this imbalance in supply and demand at the moment. Like, supply is fully in control right now, right? It's just creating new lows with broken swing structure. So now we know that supply is on, you know, boss mode, right? So we can start saying that, okay, cool, now we've got another break of like 4H structure here, right? So we can go and look beyond this level here for continuation areas, right? Which we come up with, you know, this, and this is just on this time frame. Let's have a quick look at 15M as well, because 15M, this, right? And if we go and monitor, this is how we validate, right? We can go and look at this, right? We can say, okay, we have an engulfed by 2 cell that has led to a break of structure, right? But do we have the required things here, right? Has it reacted to a previous range? Yes, right? We've got those cell to by wicks over there, right? So we have a valid POI that we can look for shorts, right? We could also, you know, be looking at this very definitely. That you're gonna have more than one level, right? This is why we like to play confirmations, right? Because we're gonna have both of these levels, right? Both are valid, both have given reactions to previous ranges, both have led to breaks of structure, right? Sometimes price will come back for the extreme, sometimes it will not, right? It's hard to get a read on when that will happen necessarily, right? So price continues on up, wicks it, right? And now we might be able to go down on the 1M, wicks it, but gives us no real change of character, right? It just wicks up, never takes out this low, right? So what we're looking for is this change of character. And well, we have it there. Sorry, I went a little bit faster than that. Right, we even have like a little internal one here, right? But this may get run because, you know, we don't have any real commitment. But yeah, you could potentially try to trade from that. And you could almost definitely try to trade. Well, no, because you haven't really got any interaction here again. You know, this reacts, yes, but yeah. But let's just see. Yeah, it runs the high as I thought. Right, cool. Now we run this high, right? Now we can straight away see, right? And this would be more visible on the seconds. We can also go, you know, and refine this level to more specific things, right? And we can see here that, okay, well, here's the break of our internal range, right? So this is our smaller supply range within the supply range. Right, so what broke this internal range? Well, we've got this wick here, which I doubt I'll be able to go down onto 30 seconds. Alright, let's see. No, I can't. But yeah, we could refine that. To that, right? And if we've got, and you see how precise the refinement is, right? So now we can just wait for that last level of supply, depending on how aggressive you want to be. There's other entries within here that we'll run through in another video, but you can see here we have this demand level, right, that breaches this high, right? Price comes in, wicks into it, right, rejects, gives us that doji. So that doji, and then takes the low of this demand range, right? So that doji is supply coming into the market. Look how it never gets violated, right? Just melts, right? Never comes back, right? You know, and now we're just again following it down from a higher time frame, and we can say, okay, cool. Well, we don't have a 4-hour boss here because this isn't necessarily big enough that we would class it as 4H, right? But we have what am I looking for? Boss. But we have a break of structure, right? 15M, whatever, right? Highs formed nicely, taking out liquidity, blah blah blah. So we can again look for supply levels within this range, right? We've got this. We have this too. This is clean, right? got a little equal high. So again, we can look anywhere here and just say, well, now we can try and trade the pullback as well, right? So cool, what do we do? Okay, we come down, keep pushing down, keep pushing down, keep pushing down. We're just like, all we're doing at the moment is looking at these previous supply ranges, right, and going, when does one get taken out? Right, that's demand coming back into the market. Okay, it's still not taken out, still there, it's just taken out. So in theory we could look for longs from there, but it's not, very definitely not the cleanest level. Probably better to leave that one alone, but we keep pushing down, keep pushing down. Okay, now we've got a nice takeout of supply here, right? We've got some levels within here we can play off, you know, predominantly this wick. Right, these sell to buys here, and you notice how it's always the sell to buy candles. I'm never marking a bullish candle, right? I'm always marking sell to buy price action, right? Price comes back in, taps off the extreme in this case, off to the moon she goes, right? So again, it's just confirmations, right? We've got two levels, we look at both of them. It's just, you know, no harm in looking at both of them, right? Yeah, price continues its nice rally to the upside. You know, we can see here that we formed again a nice level of demand. Does it have interaction? Well, we can see that there's buy to sell price action over here, right? We can also see this, but really we want to be looking like within the range. We've got a couple of, you know, we've got various supply levels in here that we can show off, but this is just to show you like the highest probability ones, right? So we've got this level here that we can get long to continue to run the high. We form liquidity above it. You know, this is taking liquidity here, it's a flip. Yeah, price comes back down into it, perfect, right? Cool, so now, you know, well, now we've changed character again, right? Like we've taken out this demand range here, right? So we can look above, well, we can look at a couple of different levels for shorts, predominantly, you know, this, right? Predominantly this. But one crucial thing we need to be aware of is that we haven't tapped back into this whole larger supply range, right? So the move that breaks this low is likely, not always, right, but it's likely to come from this previous demand range. You see how it always comes back into these ranges, right? But always, basically, right? So if we're getting in a trade here, we don't want to be focusing on this running the high, right? We want to be focusing, and that has come from not much, really. So we just want to wait till we get that change of character. Then we get the generation of liquidity again, right? Generation of liquidity here. Okay, price is tapped in. Let's go and see if it gives us an entry. Okay, so we get a change in character here, right? But we have like other stuff up here. We have this little flip here, but and we've got a change of character all the way up here. So again, here for me, it's just better to watch that order flow, right, and see when it changes, and then we can go and figure out, okay, well, it's changed already now. We can see here we've got this interaction here. So really we can look at like this or the extreme. The extreme is always valid, right? Or it just takes out the extreme there. But you see how it's difficult to read when you haven't got like a specific POI here. Sometimes it's difficult to read, right? Here we get another change of character, right? So we get this low getting taken. and this low getting taken. Right, so we've got this whole previous supply range here that we would expect price to come back into, which it does. Oh, it takes out the high of that as well. Look at that, see, and this is why we don't trade just limits off stuff like this, right? Now we can wait and see. You can start seeing these supply ranges being respected now, like here. Right? Here. Alright, this is, I know this price action is pre-FOMC, so it's always going to be a bit riskier. We get like another internal change of character here to here. We take out this demand range. So again, we can look at like levels like, you know, this, something like that. This. If it comes back to it, of course, it might just melt. Oh, there you go. Yeah, gives us. Oh, runs the high of all of this again. Actually creates equal highs there. Right, this is why the extreme is always valid. And why we don't play limits, right? Because you can see, well, here you get a little, here you get a change of character, but you get no flip. Right, then here you get like a flip and a thing, so yeah, here's your entry, right? Price wicks into this, reacts to the range, breaks the range, so yeah, your entry is, you know, here somewhere, right? Yes, we have equal highs above. Yes, you may get swept at that point in time, but yeah, do you get swept? But then you just keep paying attention and seeing what is happening within this range. And it's why it's never really advisable to trade off of equal highs. What's this coming into? See, because really what I'd be looking at is this range over here. Right, that would be like my prime location. Ideally, I wouldn't want to trade until there. It's why it's so hard to trade, as I explained earlier, it's why it's so hard to trade just order flow, right? It's always better to pair it with POIs because you get this, right? Now we get, well, again, we can try to short from here. You know, you get a change of character here, you have a flip. The flip is good, it's run liquidity, all of that jazz, right? You got your whole supply range, so ooh. Let's see if this one works. Right, and all of this is still, while we haven't tapped into that larger range, so yeah. You see how we just tapped the very bottom of that range, there to there. Right, so that will be like a 2-minute POI, something, yeah, there you go, 2-minute POI. Right, because it's one whole range, basically. Right, price, let's actually continue. Oh no, it does come back up to the 1M thing. Right, and then continues off to hell for a bit. Right, oh, not there you go, hell, and then what does this come into? There you go. Right. So now we want to wait and see what happens up here, and we just want to monitor that battle again. So this isn't really about entries, this video, it's just like trying to give you an idea of how we look at it, right? So we see demand range respected. Right, this is respected this larger demand range, so do we get, okay, now we've got a new demand range here to here. We can refine that to slightly more specific things if we want. But yeah, just as an overall idea. Okay, that range has been violated, but we can see here that we've got this first reaction up here, so there's going to be probably, oh, I'm not going to be able to go down on like the 30, yes, no. Stupid thing. But yeah, so we can see that something has happened at this extreme, right? There's probably a really clean OB here. Don't really have anything else beautiful to work off in this, right? So there's our supply level. Okay? And it's just the level that leads to the change of character, right? Because it's breaking structure at that point in time, right? Price taps in and yeah, off she goes. Right, then we get more stuff happen over in FOMC and all that. But you see the point, right? It's like a supply level or a demand level at its base, right, is any area that has led to a break of structure. Right, price will come to retest within the previous range. Right, will normally come to retest a refined POI within that range. Right, we're always looking for engulfed candles, buy to sell wick. Like the three things I look for valid supply and demand, right? Dojis I'll take on their own because they just do stuff. Don't know why, in all honesty. I haven't really spent enough time figuring out the logic of it. Runs on liquidity, right? Because they are essentially a transactional area, and areas that have interaction, right? So like have reacted to a previous supply or demand level. Basically that's it. I mean, I know you guys probably want a bit more from this video, but I'd really love to have a chat with you all about what you want me to go over, stuff like that, right? Because I know a lot of you know me and know how I see the market anyway. So for the newer guys, it would definitely be interesting to find out what things you want me to cover a little more in depth. But yeah, peace and love, guys. Take it easy. Speak to you soon.